Hello, Rion, I'm audible. Okay, so fine, guys. I think I'm audible to every one of you. So let's start. Okay, fine. So guys, just a quick update for all of you. So if you will look into your dashboard, so we have already updated your dashboard with the things that we have discussed in yesterday's class with recordings as well. So like whatever files that we were talking about in yesterday's class, so it's already available in your oops section. So if I'll go over here, yeah, so class notebook. So as a class notebook, so I have already uploaded over here, and your recordings are already updated. So this is the recording from yesterday's class. So you can try to go through this recording. So if you want. Now, so in today's class, we are going to extend a same lecture, I would say, and we will try to talk about like a few more things over here. And before that, let me so, okay, please go a little bit slow. Don't worry, I'll go a little bit slow. Okay. Fine, guys. Okay, so okay, fine, guys. So yesterday I was talking about basically like we have started with a file handling, right? So how we can try to handle a file into a Python code. This is what we were talking about, right? In today's class. So let's try to discuss same thing, and let's try to find out that how we can try to handle a different kind of a file, or like not different kind of file, basically a txt file into Python code, because we will try to understand how to handle a different kind of file into your pandas section. So we will try to spend lots of time with pandas, and then we will try to understand those facts. Now, so here we have seen that if we have to create a file, right? So a procedure is very simple. So what you can do is you can try to write this command called as a write file, and then you can try to give a file name, and then you will be able to write any kind of text over here, and it will create a file for you. If file is not available, it will create a new file. If file is already available, so in that case it is going to create, in that case it is going to update a file. So this is what it will do, guys, right? So fine, let's try to like understand that what and all operations that we will be able to perform. So just a quick recap. So we have seen that there is a function called as open. So with the help of open function, you will be able to open up a file, and then you will be able to open up a file into a write mode. So there are a different kind of a mode which is available, like a write mode, or like a read mode, or maybe like a append mode, or append plus mode, or write plus mode, or execute mode. So these modes are almost similar to like a mode that you will be able to get in any other languages. So by default, whenever you will try to open up a file, so you will be able to find out in its signature of this open that a mode is equal to R. So this is the default like a mode that you will be able to get. Means I can open up a file and I can try to read it. But if I have to perform some kind of a write operation, so I will not be able to perform a write operation with respect to a file. Now, so we were trying to open up a file into a write mode and read mode, my bad. So read mode, and then I was trying to read out a file. Now, whenever I will try to read out a file, so for sure it will start reading a file from the very first place, means from a very first indexes, I would say, because whenever file try to store some data inside it, so it always try to perform a indexing operation in case of a txt file. I'm not talking about all the file, because the metadata that it used to create internally, it's different for a different kind of a file. So I'm just talking about a txt file, .txt file as of now. Fine. So here I'm trying to open up a file into a read mode, and then we have seen that if we are trying to open up a file into a read mode, so for sure it will be able to read a data. Now, once after reading this file, so my pointer will be available, my cursor will be available in a very last location, right? Now, again, if I'll try to read out the file, so for sure, I will not be able to get any kind of a data. This is what we have seen. So whenever we are going to execute a same thing again, right? The file like a file object dot read. So in that case, it is going to give me a blank, right? Because my pointer is available in a very last location. It has already read all the files, all the data which is available inside a file. Now, this is what has happened over here. So whenever I'm trying to read a file again, so it is trying to give me a blank. Now, there is a provision or there is a function which is available inside a Python code where you can try to set a pointer. So if you want to set a pointer on a 0th location or maybe on nth location, so you will be able to set a pointer without any if and but. And that function is called as a seek. So seek will try to place a pointer in a particular location. That's it, nothing else. So here I'm trying to perform a seek operation. I think we have already discussed about that, right? So seek always takes one argument and then it will try to keep a pointer in that particular indexes. Okay, so here I'm trying to reset the indexes on a 10th location. Now, so if I'm trying to read a file again, so now it will try to read a file from the 10th location till last. And again, so if I'll try to perform like a read operation, it is going to give me a blank because after reading a file, so now again my cursor will be available in a very last location. Now here again, I'm trying to perform a seek operation. I'm trying to set basically a pointer on a 0th indexes. Now, if I wanted to read out a file as a list, so one by one, line by line, if I wanted to read out the file, but I want all of those data which I'm trying to read out from the file should be available inside a list. So yes, I can do that as well. So for doing that, there is a function called as read lines. Now, none of the function which I'm trying to talk about over here, you are supposed to remember. So don't try to remember any of this function. A function is very simple: a read function, seek function, a read line function, or open function. So again, function itself says everything, I would say. So you're not supposed to remember any of this function. With practice, so for sure you will be able to remember it. Even now, so I don't remember any of this function. Even if you will ask me to write some kind of a code, so maybe I'll take a help from Stack Overflow or maybe from a Google. This is what we all do, I would say. So you just know how to write a code. That's it. So, and how to write a code doesn't mean that you should remember each and everything. It's just a practice. It's just a common practice, I would say. And we all used to refer Google, or we all used to refer like a Stack Overflow. So nothing to worry about that, right? So no one used to write a code even across the industry without referring to a Google or without referring to a like a Stack Overflow, even though a person is working in a Google, basically. Right? So don't try to remember even a single thing. I don't recommend that approach, but just like learn how to build a logic. Just learn how to write a code. So this is what you are supposed to learn. And apart from that, everything, just leave it. Okay. So read line will always try to read a data, and it will always try to return a data as a list. So now if you will try to check a type of this read line outcome that we are able to get, so for sure it is supposed to give me what? List. And yes, I was able to get a list data, as simple as that. Now, so apart from that, so suppose if I have to perform some kind of a write operation. Read operation is one kind of a event, I can say. But apart from that, so sometime you will have to write a data as well inside a file. Now, so whenever you are trying to open up a file, so you are supposed to open up a file into a write mode. Then only you will be able to perform some kind of a write operation. If you are trying to open up a file into a read mode, and then if you will try to perform a write operation, it is going to give you error. For example, so suppose if I'm trying to open up a file, this particular file, so test1.2 that we have created, right? And if I'm going to execute it, so here, okay, so test1.2 was was 2.1 actually. So fine, I'll just change this file name. I'm trying to open up like a 2.1, okay? So here, that is completely fine. But when I'm trying to perform a write operation, because I have opened up a file into which mode? So the default mode is equal to R. So if I'll try to show you again, so here you will be able to find out that this is the default mode for file whenever you will try to open up. Now here, the default mode is R, which is nothing but a read mode. So you will be able to read a data. You will not be able to write a data. There is a difference between reading and writing a data. So here you will be able to read a data, and now here you are trying to perform some kind of a write operation, and that's the reason. So it is trying to give you an exception saying that not writable. I can't write anything inside your file because you have opened up a file into a read mode. So if you have to perform a write operation, then you will have to open up a file into a write mode, and then only you will be able to perform these kind of operations. So what you can do is, so you can try to set a value for that, right? So you can try to set a value for that over here. So mode is equal to, you can try to set mode is equal to, and then you can try to keep like a W. And then if you are trying to perform this operation, so yes, this time it is able to write some data, and this time I'm not able to get any kind of a exception. Now I have to cross verify that whether I'm able to write a data inside my file successfully or not. So let's try to understand, let's try to check. So what I will do is I will try to go to this directory, and then I will try to search for a file to test21, and let's see. So it is able to perform a write operation or not. Okay, let me just refresh it so that it will reflect all the changes. Then test21, okay, and here is something. Okay, so basically I was trying to write this particular data set inside the file, and yes, it is able to write down a data inside my file, as you can see. So it is able to write down like this is the new line, right? So if you will try to open up a file, so yes, this is what I was trying to perform, and yes, it's done. Now, so again, inside a write mode, so there are a different kind of a mode that you will be able to get. So W plus, which is nothing but so write plus append operation, or maybe if you wanted to delete everything and then you will try to rewrite the entire things, even that option is available. So mode wise, you can try to give any kind of a mode. You can try to give append mode, you can try to give like a write mode, write plus mode, execute mode. So many different kinds of mode which is available, which you can try to give, depends upon your requirement, and then you will be able to perform a file read and write operation with respect to a txt data set. Fine. Now here again I'm trying to set a pointer, set a cursor at 0th location, and then I'm trying to perform a read. So my file dot read. Okay, so let's suppose if I'm trying to give W plus. Now here you will be able to find out that this is the file, this is the line which I was trying to write down, and yes, I'm able to read that particular as well. So here W plus means I will be able to write plus I will be able to read. Otherwise W simply means that so you will be able to just perform a write operation, you will not be able to perform a read operation. So these are the different modes, guys, which is available inside a Python. So you can just try to experiment with all of those mode which is available inside a Python. And again, it's almost similar to the other languages in terms of a file read and write mode operation that you will be able to find out. So fine, not an issue. So here we are able to understand that how we will be able to perform a write operation, how I will be able to perform a read operation, and all such kind of things. Now, so again, like I told you, so text file is, or text file read and write operation is not a very common operation whenever you will try to work into a real project. So the common operation will be to deal with a JSON file, deal with the XML file, deal with the CSV file, deal with the Excel file, and all sort of file, which we are going to explore in your Pandas classes. As of now, we are just trying to understand that, okay, fine. So if we have a very simple txt file, so how I will be able to perform a different kind of operations inside that particular file. Now, so let's suppose if inside my file there are multiple lines which is available, right? So inside a single file, if I have a multiple line, so let's suppose if I'm going to create some file called as test51, and if I'm trying to like write 2 lines inside the file, so what will happen in this case? Let's try to understand it. So here I have just created a test51 file, and then if I'm trying to open up this file, so it's completely fine. Here you will be able to find out that I have written 2 lines, first line and second line. First line means as a txt, and the second line as a txt I have written. These are the 2 lines which I have written inside the file. Or if it is going to create like a confusion, then first line this one and then KUMAR. Okay. Now, so whenever I'm trying to read out this file, so it is trying to show me all the data into a single line. Now I don't want that. What I want is, so I want to read out the data from this particular file in the similar way, the way I have written all of those data inside this file. So what I will do and what I should do in that particular case, basically. So let's try to understand it. So here I have a file. I have just written a 2 line of a data inside this file. And then I'm trying to open up this file and then I'm trying to read out this file. And by default, it is trying to give me all the data in a single line itself. Plus you will be able to find out some special case character over here, /n. /n is nothing but it's a new line that we are talking about. Okay, so because after every line, so you will be able to find out a /n by default. So for sure inside a file it will not be visible, but still you will be able to see this new line character. Now, so let's suppose if I have to read out all of these data line by line, one by one, right, separately. So in that case, I can try to open up a file into a for loop. And after opening up a file into a for loop, if I'm going to iterate through it, so for sure I will be able to see a first line data. I will be able to see a second line data separately. I will not be able to get like entire data into a single line itself, which will not be a readable for me. So here I'm trying to perform this operation, no such file or directory. So let me change this file name as 51. Okay, so here you will be able to find out that yes, I'm trying to read out a same data, but in this particular place, so it is trying to give me a data into a different lines, as simple as that. So yes, I'm able to read out the data into a separate line just by iterating my entire file open object, I would say, inside a for loop. Or else what you can do is, so you can try to like give over here like a my file. So let's suppose if I'm going to give my file my file, because my file is an object, and let me comment this one so that my cursor will be available in a first location. And even in this case, you will be able to get the data. So you're not supposed to write this entire open function over here. So it's completely fine. If you have already created the object of this open function, you can just try to call this variable, the object variable that you have created. And then you can try to read out the data line by line, one by one. And yes, you will be able to get a data. So this is how easy it is whenever you will try to read a data line by line from a particular file. So this is a brief idea, or you can say this is a brief introduction about each and everything that you will be able to see with respect to a txt file. So we are able to open up a file, we are able to create a file, we are able to perform a write operation, single line, we are able to perform a multi-line write operation, we are able to set a cursor, we are able to read a data into a list. So these are the operations that we have done, we are able to achieve so far so forth with respect to a simple txt file operations. Now the next thing that we are going to execute over here is a string IO. So generally whenever I will try to create a string, let's suppose if I'm trying to create a string s over here, and if I'm going to store this data SUDH inside s, and if I'm trying to print this s over here, so for sure I will be able to get SUDH in this particular place. But whenever you're trying to create any kind of a variable, so all of those variables will be available inside a main memory, inside a RAM, basically. So, and if I'll talk about a file, so file always try to persist itself inside a hard disk or inside a secondary storage. So the difference between this variable and the difference between a string or difference between a file is, so a string will be available inside a main memory, which is nothing but your RAM, and your file will be available inside your hard disk. So suppose if I'm going to shut down this particular notebook, so for sure I will not be able to get this particular string. But even if I will shut down my notebook or my system, but still I will be able to get a file, the file which you are able to see, or the file which we are able to create, the file which we are able to read, because that particular file is available into a permanent memory location. So that's the difference in general you will be able to find out. So a string is a part of a volatile memory, or you can say like a main memory, and file is a part of your hard disk or your secondary storage. Now, so the way we were trying to do some kind of operation on top of file, so if you wanted to perform a similar kind of operation with respect to a in-memory variable, you will be able to perform such kind of operation. So what kind of operation I'm talking about? So I'm talking about basically a file read operation, file write operation, file read line operation, and all such operations that we have performed with respect to a file. So if I wanted to perform such kind of operation with respect to my string that I have created over here, yes, I will be able to perform such kind of a operation. It is possible. So now let's try to understand how it is possible, because a string is a part of a main memory, and if I'll talk about a file, so file is a part of your secondary memory, and both of these things creates a different type of the object. The variable which file is going to create, the object the file is going to create, and the object which string is going to create is different basically. So now there is something called as a string IO. So a string input output which is available inside a IO package. So here what I'm trying to do is, so I'm trying to import this string IO from a IO package. This is what I'm trying to do. So by default, this package will be available as a part of your Python installation. So with the help of that, so I will try to convert my string object into a file like object. So this is what I'm going to perform over here. So I will try to convert my string object into a file like object, and then once I will be able to convert my string object into a file like object, yes, I will be able to perform each and every kind of operation that I'm looking for, right? So that's a whole idea, and that's a whole objective that we are going to fulfill. So let's try to understand that how we are going to perform this file like operation on a string object. So here I'm trying to call from IO import string IO. That is completely fine. And then on top of that, so I'm just trying to create one simple string variable. So here message is nothing but it's a string variable which I'm trying to create. Now I'm trying to pass this string variable inside a string IO function. So here if you will try to check a type of message, so for sure it will try to give you str, as you can see. So here the type of a message variable is nothing but it's a str that we are able to get. Now, so if I'm trying to pass this same string message into a string IO function, now what will happen? So it is going to give me this F object. It's completely fine. Now, if I'll try to check a type of this F object, you will be able to see some kind of a changes over here, type, and then if I'm going to pass like a F over here, now it's not a string object. It's basically a string IO object, and a string IO object holds some kind of a properties, I would say. So you will be able to perform all file-like operation on this string IO object. So let's try to understand these things. So how I will be able to perform like a file-like operation. So here I have just passed my string inside a string IO, and now it's a string IO kind of object. It's not a str object. Previously, yes, it was a str object, but now it's a string IO kind of object. Now if I'm trying to perform like a file.read, right? So if I'm trying to perform a file.read operation, so yes, it is going to work fine for me. So read is not a function which you will be able to get with respect to a string. Read is a kind of a function that you will be able to get with respect to a file. Basically, we have just seen that. We were using a file read operation, file open operation, a file write operation we were trying to use. So yes, this read operation I'm able to perform. Now again, if I'm trying to perform this file.read operation, let's see what is going to happen. So suppose if I'm trying to execute these things once and then twice, and then let's suppose again if I'm trying to execute, see, this is the outcome. And I think this is the property of a file that we have always seen, that it will try to point a cursor on a very last index. Now, so we have seen that there is a seek function. With the help of seek function, I will be able to set a cursor, or I will be able to set a pointer over here. So let's try to understand that whether I'm able to set a cursor for this particular file or not. So what I can do is, so f.seek, and then I can try to type maybe like a fourth pointer, fourth index I can try to keep. So fine, this index is set. Now, if again I will try to perform the read operation, let's see what happens. So now I'm able to get a data, but from the fourth indexes. So guys, this is what happens. I would say this is what happens. So I'm able to perform all file kind of operation on top of a string once I will be able to convert my string into a string IO. So this is a kind of operation that you will be able to perform on a string. Again, this kind of operation is a very rare operation. It's not a very common operation, right? So we don't do that in most of the cases, but yeah. So for knowledge, so I'm just trying to share these things with you so that you must be having an idea that if I have to perform file-like operation on top of a string, so whether this kind of operations are possible or it's not possible, right? Okay. Now here, so I'm trying to perform like a file.write. So again, we have seen that yes, we can try to perform a file.write operation, and now if I'll try to get the entire data, so it has appended these particular lines. So previously we had just this line, but now it has appended this line as well. So just like a file operation, so just like it used to append each and everything inside a file, so in the similar way it is trying to append each and everything with respect to a string object, which is nothing but a string IO object in which we have converted. So these are the operation, guys, you will be able to perform. Like I told you, again, this is not a very common operation, so just practice it and forget it. Simple. So whenever you will need it, so for sure you will be able to recall these kind of things at any point of a time. So now let's try to take some questions, and then I will try to discuss exception handling. Okay, so okay, so can we delete the file once created? Yes, you can try to delete it. So even delete function is available, so you can try to practice that as well. Okay, so someone is asking that, sir, file handling is important. So yes, file handling is important. So not this one. So not this txt kind of file, but whenever you will try to understand or will try to discuss about a CSV file or Excel file. So yes, at that point of time, so file handlings are very much important, I would say. So you should know that, but not in this one. It's completely fine. So someone is asking that, okay, fine. So only txt file kind of things we can handle in a Python code. It's not like that. We can try to handle other kind of a file as well. But yeah, so you will have to deal with the Unicode characters, and you will have to deal with other stuffs as well. So it's always better to handle those file into a pandas library, which is again a Python library. But yeah, so it's a different packages. It's not a part of Python code. It's all sort of a different packages that you will be able to get. So fine, guys, let me go to your dashboard, and there, so we have an exception handling. So here you will be able to find out. So we were talking about this section, right? So we were talking about oops section. Now we are going to talk about this particular section, which is nothing but, I would say, which is nothing but it's a exception handling. So let's try to understand that what is exception handling, and how we can try to utilize this exception handling in our a programming. So I will just go over here. I will try to download this file. So in the similar way, you can try to download. So it's already available, guys, inside your dashboard. So you can try to download by python5.ipynb. Okay. So here we are going to talk about something called as a exception handling. So here you will be able to find out a topic called as error and exception. So let's try to understand that what is a meaning of error and what is a meaning of a exceptions and what is the significance of handling these things, why we are talking about this exception handling, what is the scope of this exception handling and how we can utilize it. So guys, what happens is, so let's suppose if I'm trying to write some kind of a operation. So let's suppose if I'm trying to perform like operation like a file dot read operation, right? Or maybe file dot write operation, or the way which I was trying to perform just before few minutes, I would say. So let's suppose if I'm trying to perform a file read operation, or let's suppose if I'm trying to perform a write operation. So first of all, I will try to open up a file. So open, and then maybe I can try to open up a text 51.txt possible. So 51.txt, I'm trying to open up over here. And let's suppose if I'm trying to, so let me store these things inside the variable f. And then on top of that, so if I'm trying to perform write operation, so if I'm trying to perform a write operation, and let's suppose if I'm trying to pass some kind of a string, I will be able to get some kind of an error. Now here you will be able to find out that whenever I was trying to open up a file, so I was trying to open up a file into a write mode, right? So it will not allow me to perform a write operation because I was trying to open up a file into a read mode. By default, the mode was R. So R is nothing but read mode. So now if you are trying to open up something into just a read mode, and then if you are trying to perform some kind of operation like a write operation or execute operation, so these operations are not a feasible operation with respect to your open object that you have created. And in that case, for sure, you will be able to get some kind of an error. Now, so suppose in another situation, so suppose if I'm trying to perform this kind of operation, 5 divided by 0. So basically 5 divided by 0, mathematically it will be equal to infinity. Now if I'll try to execute it, so division by 0 error, it is trying to give it to me. So again, this is the kind of a error, or this is the kind of a mistake which I have done over here in this particular place. Now let's suppose if I'm trying to perform this print operation, and here, so as you can see, I have missed a one single quotation. Now if I'll try to execute this one, so again I will be able to get an error. So in all of those situations, so I'm able to get some kind of a error in every situation, right? So sometime I'm able to get this kind of a error because of my mistake. Sometime I'm able to get this kind of a error, maybe because of like a system runtime, or maybe because of like a kind of a data which I'm trying to provide, or the kind of a syntax or the kind of a argument which I'm trying to provide. So basically all these things is called as a errors, or all these things are called as an exception, or I can say all these things you can try to divide into a runtime error and a compile time error. So compile time error is nothing but the syntactical mistake that you are going to make. So here you can try to say that, okay, fine, so I'm trying to perform this kind of operation, which is a syntactical mistake, right? So whenever you will try to write this kind of a code into maybe like another IDE, so PyCharm or maybe into a VS Code, so it will try to flag this particular error automatically. So it will try to show you, it will try to highlight, or it will try to underline your error automatically, because these are basically a compile time error, and it will not allow you to execute your code unless and until you are not going to rectify all of those errors. This is what happens in terms of a compile time error. But as far as this runtime error is concerned, so it will not even allow you to compile your entire file, because there is some syntactical mistake that you have made, like this one. This is the syntactical mistake which I have made in this particular place. So for sure it will not allow me. Or if I'll talk about another kind of error, so maybe I can try to like write SUDH, and I can try to perform like a plus operation, and again this is the error, right? Because I'm trying to concatenate, or I'm trying to perform this plus operation on a string plus integer, and yes, for sure this is a kind of a situation where it is going to give me an error. Now, so it could possible that somewhere I have missed some kind of an indentation and all those things. So those things are nothing but it's a compile time error. Now, So maybe here, because of some mistake with the data set, so the data which I'm trying to provide into a denominator, so it is trying to give me some kind of error. So again, this is a kind of an error that I will be able to get. So here you will be able to get a different kind of a error at a different point of a time. Now, so whenever you have to write a code, so you have to make sure that you have to handle each and every situation automatically. Because what happens is, so suppose if I'm trying to write a code, and if there is some kind of a mistake which I have made in between, so because of that, it will try to terminate an entire set of a code that you have written after that particular error. Now, for example, so let's suppose if I'm trying to perform some kind of a file read operation. So first of all, I will try to open up a file. So let's see, I'll try to open up a file over here. So test maybe like 5121, any files I can try to open up. Okay. And then maybe I can try to perform like file dot read operation. So file dot read operation, and yes, that is completely fine. And then I can try to perform maybe a file dot f dot write operation. So yes, that will be completely fine. So file dot write operation, I can write like a my name is, and then what I can do is I can try to perform maybe a print operation, right? So this, correct. Okay, so fine, I have written basically a 4 line of a code, right? Now what will happen in this case? Let's try to understand. So if I'll try to read out the file, so if I'll try to execute each and everything, so it will be able to open up a file. It's not an issue. It will be able to perform a read operation. So for example, so if you wanted to see that print, and then I can try to write over here this one. Okay, so as you can see over here that it is able to open up a file and it is able to perform a read operation, as I can see the output. Now after that, so I was trying to perform a write operation. And if you remember, so I'm just trying to open up this file into a read mode, not into a write mode. So in this case, it is going to give me some kind of a issue. And it's trying to tell me that no, file is not writable. So whatever operations that you are trying to perform over here, it's not a correct operation. And after that, whatever operation which I have written, right? So it will not try to execute these operations because my code has already failed in this particular place. In line number 3 itself, so my code has failed, and because of that, it will not allow my code to get into a 4th number of line. And it will not allow any line of a code to get executed after this particular instance. Now, so whenever you have to write a code in a real time, so you have to make sure that you write a code in such a way that it will not be able to give you any kind of a issue, or it will not be able to give you any such kind of a situation where it should stop other set of a code to get executed. So whenever we write a code, so we always try to make sure that yes, even if my code is going to fail in between, it should allow other set of code to get executed, right? So all this kind of operations we will be able to handle, or we will be able to deal with the help of something called as a exception handling, I would say. So exception handling is a concept which is available in almost every programming languages. You will be able to find out. And again, so no one is going to ask you that, okay, fine, so you have to do exception handling. But no, as a developer or as a coder, so you have to make sure that you have handled all such kind of exceptions whenever you are trying to send your code into a production. Unless and until you are not able to handle, or you have not handled a code, you are not supposed to check in your code into a production, because there is a possibility that it's completely fine that syntactically your code is completely correct, but maybe in a runtime, so if you are able to get a wrong data, because of that it could possible that your code will fail. For example, I'll just show you one example over here. So here what I can do is, so I can try to write one like a small set of a code, so where I can do in this way. So let's suppose I'm going to create variable b, and b is nothing but, so it's a input input variable, and let me convert this variable to the integer, so it's completely fine. So insert your integer, okay, and then so a is nothing but, so a is nothing but 5 divided by b. Now if I'll try to execute this code, right, now what will happen? So it is asking me for the integer. Let's suppose I'm going to give 45. Okay, things are fine. So now if I'll try to print a, so yes, you will be able to get a value of a as well. So here is the value that you will be able to get. Now if I'll try to execute maybe like a string over here, this is the issue, right? It was working fine for some of the instances, but it is not working fine for some other instances. So here it is trying to give me a value error. That is fine. Now again, so if I'll try to give a 0 over here, now what will happen? It is trying to give me some other kind of exception, right? So the instance is same, the code is same that we have written. A code is working in some of the situation and code is not working in some other situation, I would say, right? So there is no problem with the code. Whatever code that I have written over here, this code is completely correct. But the kind of a data that we are trying to get in a runtime, when I'm trying to execute it, runtime is what? When I'm trying to execute it, if all of my code are syntactically correct. So in that situation, you can see that I'm able to get error in some kind of a situation and I'm not able to get in some other kind of a situation. So the same code is same, but it is working fine in some situation and does not working fine in some other situation, right? So, and again, it's truth, and it is going to happen with respect to each and every code, I would say. And even though if it is not going to happen, but still you have to write a code in such a way that it will be able to handle each and everything. It should be able to handle any kind of a disaster or any kind of exceptions which you will be able to get into a runtime. So it's our responsibility as a developer, as a coder, to make sure that, okay, so we have had handled exceptions in a much better way for each and every line of a code that we are going to write. So exception handling is one of the very important concept that you should learn. And again, it's not tough at all. It's very easy actually. So whenever I will try to talk about this exception handling, so you will be able to find out that it's nothing. It's nothing. It's very easy, and easily you will be able to perform these kind of operations at any point of a time. It's very easy. It's too easy to handle exceptions. There are only 4 kind of a block which is available inside the exception handling. Just have to apply those 4 block. Nothing else you have to do at any point of a time. So fine, guys. So this is something called as exception. So I think all of you are able to understand the problem with the code, right? So even though my code is working fine, even though everything is correct, but still there is a chances that I will be able to get an issue, maybe a runtime, because of some data issue, because of some connectivity issue with the databases, or because of some network issue. Depends, I would say. And I'm supposed to handle it, because my code should not stop other set of a code, because we have seen that if my code is going to fail in between, it will not allow other set of a code to get executed at any point of a time. That's an issue. Now, if you wanted to know about the history, if you wanted to know about the history of exception handling, so just because of this exception handling, right, a disaster has happened. So now I'll show you a history as well. So I don't know how many of you are aware about that, but let's talk about a history as well, which will always remind you to apply exception handling. Exception handling. Wikipedia. Okay, so just try to go through a Wikipedia, and here you will be able to find out that just because of not handling an exception, right? So just because of not handling an exception, so flight 501 has crashed. The entire flight has crashed. Flight 501 has crashed, right? So they have written a code into a ADA programming, and they have not handled some kind of exceptions. They have already handled almost every kind of exceptions, but just for a single sensor inside an engine. So they have not handled this exceptions, and that sensor has failed. They were not having any kind of expectation that this sensor is going to fail at any point of a time, but that sensor has failed, and it has failed the other subsequent programs, which has stopped the entire flight, which has stopped the entire engine of the flight. And just because of that, entire flight has cancelled. So this is one of the best use cases that are case studies that you will be able to find out in terms of exception handling. And that too in a programming itself I'm talking about. I'm not talking about some hypothetical concept over here, right? So you can go through exception handling Wikipedia, right? And just try to read out this Wikipedia. It's openly available. It's a Wikipedia. It's basically like a truth, I would say. So in 1996, this incident has happened, right? And due to other programming language, exception handling policy of abortion computation of the arithmetic error, which in case was 64-bit float point to the 16-bit integer conversion overflow. And because of that, the entire flight has crashed. So just imagine what can happen to your code, or whenever you're going to write your code for the production system. So what will happen if some kind of exceptions you have not handled, right? So people can lose a life as well as these things have happened in this particular case, in this particular situation. So I think almost some 100 or 90 plus people have died in this particular incident. Okay, so you can just try to go through this one, and then you will be able to get some historical facts about the exception handling, I would say. So yes, as a coder, as a programmer, so whenever you are writing a code, so make sure that you have to handle the exception. So now let's try to learn how we can handle an exception, and what in all kind of exceptions that you will be able to see in general whenever you will write a Python programming. I'm not talking about any other programming language. I will just try to focus and concentrate on a Python programming because we are trying to learn Python programming. Yeah. Okay. So fine, guys, let's try to understand it. So here, like I told you, that exception handling is an important concept. And again, it's an optional, but as a developer, as a coder, so it's your responsibility to make sure that you have to implement exception handling at any point of a time. Otherwise, a disaster can happen. The kind of a disaster which has happened to 1996 Flight 501. You can try to refer a Wikipedia for the same thing. Okay, fine, guys. So let's try to talk about exception handling. So in exception handling, what happens is, so suppose I have written some line of a code and I have some doubt, and even though I don't have a doubt, right? So whether I have a doubt or I don't have a doubt, so what you are supposed to do is, so you are supposed to keep those suspicious set of a code inside a block called as try block. So there is a block that you will be able to find out, that is called as a try block. So whenever you are trying to write any kind of a code, just try to keep those code inside a try block, and it's completely fine. So here you will be able to find out that I have written a code and I had some doubt. I had some kind of a doubt with this code. So I will try to write, or I will try to keep all of those set of a code inside a try block. And it's very easy. TRY. And TRY is basically a keyword that you will be able to find out inside a Python. So here I'm trying to keep all suspicious set of a code inside a try block, and then I can start writing a code. Whatever line of code that you are trying to write, just try to keep these things inside a try block. That's it. Now, so fine, try block, and then let's suppose if I'm trying to open up a file, so try to open up a file over here, and then let's suppose like I'm trying to open up maybe test21.txt, and after that, so I will try to perform a write operation. First of all, I'll try to perform a read operation. So here f.read operation I'm trying to perform. Okay, now if I'll try to execute it, so here I will be able to get some kind of a issue. Now why I'm getting some kind of a issue? Because I have already opened up a file, and whenever I'll try to open up a file, so this file, it will be able to open up into a read mode and try to perform a read operation. It's completely fine. It should not give me any kind of issue, but it is trying to tell me that it's a syntax error. It's a syntax error means it's a compile time issue. So means some kind of a syntax, syntactical mistake you have done in this particular place. Now, what is a kind of a syntactical mistake which I have done? So whenever you are trying to write a try block, so you have to make sure that you have to mention a except block. There is a block called as except, which comes along with the try block. So in try block, we always try to keep a suspicious set of the code. So in whatever code I have a doubt, in my case, so even though if you don't have a doubt, keep it inside the try block, as simple as that. So fine. So this two line of a code which I have written and which was a suspicious set of a code, I don't even know that whether I'm going to get some kind of exceptions or not, right? I will try to keep this entire things inside a try block, and then except CPT except block I have to write. Then what I can do is I can try to write like a pass, and let's see what happens. Everything is working fine, right? So everything is working fine. I'm able to perform all of these operations and nothing has happened. Now, what will happen in this particular case? So like I told you, so if you have some kind of a suspicious set of a code, you are supposed to write it down inside a try block, and then you can write all line of a code inside a try block. For sure, whenever you're trying to use a try block, you are supposed to write an except block. Otherwise, that will be a syntactical mistake. That will not be a runtime mistake. That will be a syntactical mistake or compile time mistake, basically. So make sure that you have to implement a except block over here, and then whatever message that you wanted to give, so you can try to write all this message, or else you can try to call a pass keyword. I think we all know what is the meaning of a pass keyword, right? We have used this pass keyword even inside the function, even inside the classes, right? So everywhere we have just used it. So okay, fine guys, not an issue. So here I'm trying to write a try block, and then maybe I can try to like do one thing. So I can try to write some kind of a print. So this code is not correct. Okay. Now here you will be able to find out that, okay, this line of code is fine. Let me print this one as well. Okay. Okay. So here you will be able to find out that it is able to execute this line. This line seems to be fine for me. There is no issue with this particular line, and that's the reason. So it's not giving me any kind of an issue. And if it is not going to give you any kind of an issue, so for sure it will not even come inside the except block. Now, so if there is some issue, it is going to encounter inside a try block only and only in that case, only and only in that situation. So it is going to come inside a except block. Otherwise, it will not even come. It will not even look into the except block at all. Doesn't matter what kind of a code that you have written inside the except block, it will not even look into that one. So here my code is working fine. It is able to open up a file. It is able to perform the read operation. Yes, I'm able to get the data over here, right? And everything seems to be fine. So it will not try to execute this set of a code. But let's suppose if I'm trying to perform maybe like a write operation, right? Okay, so write operation, and then let's suppose if I'm trying to perform some write operation now. So in general, if I'll try to execute this line, in some other tab, now what will happen with respect to other tab? So with respect to other tab, you will be able to find out that it is going to give you some kind of a issue. So it is going to tell you that not writable. But are we able to get a similar thing over here? No, not at all. So here, everything seems to be fine. I'm not able to get this kind of exceptions if I'm trying to keep my code inside a try block. So what try block will do is, so try block, whenever there will be a situation, whenever it will be able to get some kind of a issue, some kind of a error, so it will try to pass that error to the except block. And whatever message that you have written inside the except block, so it will try to give you that kind of a message. And let's suppose after this, so even though I had a issue in my code, so after that, if I'm trying to write like a print statement, right? So start this. See, even though there is a problem with the code, right? Even though my code is not correct, but still I'm able to execute our next line, right? So still I'm able to print this particular things. Still these operations are working fine. It is not stopping my other operation, I would say, because I'm able to handle it. So whatever suspicious code that, or whatever code that we used to write, So we always try to enclose each and every set of a code into a different try catch statement. Now you can ask me a question that, okay, so this one set of a code is completely fine. What if I have another set of a code, and how I will be able to handle these kind of a things into a try block statement? So it's again very simple, I would say. So here, let's suppose if I'm trying to write another piece of a code, right? So just look into that. So suppose if I'm trying to write another piece of a code, and here, so I'm trying to write an operation, right, which will be able to divide A by B. So let's suppose if I'm trying to create a B over here, B is nothing but input. So input integer for this operation, okay, and I'm just going to perform the typecasting over here, nothing else. Okay, so I'm just going to perform a typecasting, and then C is nothing but, I can say, like A by B, right, or 6 by B, let's suppose. Okay, 6 by B, fine. Now, so I'm trying to perform like, okay, fine, so print basically C. Okay, so see what will happen in this case. So here I have written a try block, and I had one set of a suspicious code. So I'm trying to keep this thing inside one try block. Now I have an except block, so fine. So I'm trying to handle, and we already know that whenever we are going to create an except block, so we are going to create a try block, so we are supposed to make sure that we create a except block. Otherwise, it will be a syntactical issue. It will be a syntactical error. Now here, so again, I'm trying to write a try, and then on top of that, so what we are trying to do is, so we are trying to write like an except block over here, and then maybe I can try to handle this exception. So maybe I can try to print that sorry, I am not able to execute this. Okay, fine. Now what I will do is, I will try to execute it. So here, as you can see, that whenever I was trying to execute this entire set of a code, so even though there is an issue with this code, so whenever there will be an issue with this try block, it will try to refer this except block. So here, whatever message that I have written inside the except block, so yes, I am able to get the same message. Yeah. Now, so it will try to perform another set of operation, because I have written another set of a code for performing the similar kind of operations, right? So here, it will try to perform this operation, and now it is asking me for a input. So here what I can do is, so I can try to give some kind of an input, maybe like a 34. Okay, now if I'll try to execute it, everything is working fine. So even though even though I had an issue with a first set of a code, but still I'm able to execute second set of a code. This is what I wanted to show you, that it has not stopped my second set of a code to get executed. Now, again, if I'm trying to execute it, and again, let's suppose if I'm trying to make a mistake into a second set of a code, right? So as a value of B, so I'm trying to insert 0. There won't be an issue, right? Because what I have done is, so even I have enclosed this set of a code inside a try block. Now, whenever there will be an issue, whenever there will be an error, so it will try to throw each and everything inside a except block, I would say. So it will try to come inside the except block, and then this is something that you will be able to get, I would say. So here it's completely fine. So sorry, I'm not able to execute this, and there won't be any kind of an issue. Even though if you're going to write any other kind of a code after this one, so for sure it will be able to execute it. So there is no error that you are able to get in case of this try except kind of a statement, I would say. So it's very easy, and that's the reason I would tell. So that's the reason I was telling you that whenever you are going to write a code, so make sure that you have to implement a try except kind of a statement. It's a common coding experience, I would say, or it's a common coding practice that we are supposed to implement all the time. Some people says that it is going to increase, I would say, a complexity. I will say no. So it's not a case. It never increases a complexity of a code. It is not going to call except block unless and until there is an issue. If there is an issue, only in that case it is going to call a except block. Some people says that I can try to handle these things with respect to a if statement. again I will say no, you can't do it, basically, because whenever you write a if kind of a statement, so basically you used to write based on your thought process, based on your limit of thinking, I would say. It could possible that in a runtime you can get any other kind of exceptions, maybe because of some other situation, like people are able to get in a flight 501, and in that case even your if statement is going to fail, and you will not be able to like a save your code, you will not be able to save your entire execution, right? So it's always better and good approach to implement exception handling when you are writing a code. So going forward, whenever you will write a code, doesn't matter even if you have written a class programming or maybe object or something, or maybe a Python scripting, right? Make sure that you have to implement a try except kind of a statement. You have to handle exceptions, even though there is no issue with the code, but still try to handle it. There's no harm in that one, I would say. That's a standard coding practice that we use to implement all the time. So make sure that going forward, whenever you write a code, so you have to have implement a try and except. Now there are many more things which will come into a picture, into try and except. So fine guys, here I'm able to write like a two set of a code, and then I'm able to save a disaster over here, right? I'm not able to get any kind of a issue, right? So whatever I have written, so my code is working properly, even in case of a like a wrong input, or even in case of a wrong data set. Now you can try to write a nested try statement as well. So you can try to write as many number of a try statement as possible inside a try. Let's suppose I'm trying to perform this operation, and inside this try block, again I wanted to write some line of a code, right? So I can write like a try over here, right? And then maybe I can try to perform, let's suppose, okay, so a file statement we have already written, divided by 0 operation we have already written over here. So maybe I can try to make some kind of a mistake over here which I'm looking for. Okay, I will try to do some kind of a mistake over here. So a is equal to maybe like a is equal to SUDH, or a is equal to 1 plus C. Okay, and what I will do is, so C is nothing but INPUT. Okay, so 1 plus C, and let's suppose if I'm trying to, so by default it will give me a string, so SUDH. Okay, so here okay, now so except ESCEPT except, and then print this nested try. Okay, so here what I have done is, so I had a try block, right? So I'm trying to create another label of a try block, as you can see over here. And whenever, like I told you, so whenever you are going to create a try block, so make sure that you have to like give a except block as well, right? So what will happen in this case? So it will try to execute the first try statement, like I told you. So let's try to understand. So let's try to understand how the execution is going to happen in this particular case. So see what will happen over here is, so suppose if I've written this try block now, so this line is correct, there is an issue with this line, right? So if there is an issue with this line, so immediately it will try to come over here. So whatever line of a code that you have written in this particular place is, it's not going to execute. As you can see, this code is incorrect. So this code is incorrect. So it is coming to this point, and after that it is trying to look for this particular operations. So it is not even looking into this block of the code. If this statement is a suspicious statement, or this statement is going to fail in our case. Now, even though we have written a nested try block or try like a except kind of a statement, but still wherever it will be able to get some kind of a issue, So it will immediately try to refer to the except block, and then it will try to execute any code which is available out of this try block, not inside. And whenever you're trying to write a nested try block, so you have to make sure that whenever you are writing the statement, so it should be a separate statement. So unless and until you're not sure that, okay, fine, so whatever statement which I have written over here, so it is going to work fine, right? Or else there is a other way as well. So or else there is a other way as well, I would say. So what I can do is, so I can try to write this try block. So suppose if there is an issue which I'm expecting, and on top of that issue, so if it is going to throw my code into an except block, so I can try to write my try except block into except block as well, right? So now what will happen? Now let's see. So it is going to execute it. Let me interrupt my kernel. Okay, so here, okay, so here you will be able to find out that yes, there was a problem with this code, this line of a code, especially 3 line of a code, a third line code. So it will come inside the except block. Now it's completely fine. It is trying to print this one. Now again, it is looking for this input. Okay. Now let's suppose if I'm not going to give like a proper input, I'm trying to give some kind of a string over here. Now you will be able to find out that it is trying to print this code. This is the nested try block. So this is the nested try block. That's completely fine. And then it is trying to come inside this one. So again, it will look for the like input. Suppose if I have given 0 over here. So again, in this case, sorry, I'm not able to execute it. And yes, this is what I'm able to print. So I can try to write this try except kind of a statement anytime or anywhere. Doesn't matter. So like I told you, so wherever you are writing a set of a code for execution, and wherever you have a doubt that, okay, fine, so I can get some kind of a issue, make sure that you have to implement a try except kind of a statement. As simple as that. So I think everyone is completely fine with this try and except statement. So if you have just written a try block, if you have not written an except block, in that case, for sure, it's a syntactical error. So you have to make sure that whenever you are trying to write like a try block, so you have to mention a except block as well. That is must. Now, let's try to understand another set of a code or another kind of a code over here. So we were talking about a try and we were talking about a except block. Now let's talk about another kind of a block that is called as a else block. So here, let's suppose if I have written a try block and except block. So there is a block that you will be able to find out that is called as a else block. Now, what will happen to the code which I'm going to write inside a else block? So print this will execute itself I will successfully. Okay, so this is what I have written over here. So as you can see, so here we have a try block, we have a except block, and we have a else block, right? Now, what is the meaning of a else block, and what is like this third block, right? We have not seen these things. So I think if you remember, so we were talking about like a for else block as well in Python, and this like a try except and else is not available inside any other languages. In most of the languages, you will be able to find out like a try, catch, and finally. These are the 3 blocks that you will be able to find out. Now in Python, so there is no such catch block which exists. So like on behalf of catch, you will be able to find out except block over here. And apart from that, so there is a else block, yes, which exists, which is not like available in most of the languages. Okay, so here what will happen to the except block? So except, okay, so else block basically. So else block will try to execute itself once try block will execute itself successfully. This is what I have mentioned in my statement. I would say if try is going to fail, in that case, for sure, try will come inside except, and whatever you have written inside the except, it will try to print that one. It's completely fine. So once try will fail, only in that condition. So once try will fail, so it is not going to execute else. it will be able to execute else only in a condition when try will be able to execute itself successfully. That's it. If try is going to fail, it will not even come to the else block. In the similar way, so we have seen that for else block. So what we have learned inside the for else block, so we have seen that if for is able to complete itself successfully, only in that case it will try to come inside the else block in case of a for else in Python, right? I think like a couple of days back, so we were talking about that as well. Now, same thing happens over here. So once try will be able to execute itself successfully, then only it will come inside the else block. Otherwise, it will not even come inside the else block. So fine, guys, let's try to understand. Let's try to see whether like this things is true or not, whatever statement which I'm trying to make. Okay. So here I'm trying to execute it. Now this code is not correct. It is coming over here. Now just looking for the input. Maybe I can try to give a correct input over here, 8. Now again, it is looking for this input, right? This input. And for this try block, we have written else block, if you remember. Now, indentation is important. You should know that, okay, for which try block I have written what else statement or what except statement, right? It's not like you can try to generalize it, basically. So fine, it is now looking for an input. So it is looking for an input as an integer. So fine, maybe I can try to give a correct integer. Now, if I have given a correct integer, if it is able to completely execute itself successfully, right? If it is able to execute itself successfully, only, like I told you, only in that case it will try to come inside the else block, and now it is able to print that this will execute itself once try will execute successfully. So whatever I have written, right? So once try block will be able to execute itself successfully, then only it will come inside the else block. Now let's suppose if I'm trying to execute again, and maybe like I'm trying to give incorrect number, right? Now here you will be able to find out that this time it was looking for an integer. I have given 0, so for sure my code is going to fail in this particular place, so it will not execute this one. It will come inside except block. So this time my try was not able to execute itself successfully, and that's the reason so it will not be able to come inside the else block. So else block is an optional block which is given to you. So you can try to mention it, you can't mention it, depends upon you. It's not a mandatory block. So with some try except a statement, I can mention else. With some other try except a statement, it depends upon me. I may choose to like not to use like else block, I can say. So it's completely fine over here. So as you can see with this try except block, I'm not using any kind of a else statement. Even with this try except, I'm not using any kind of a else statement. I can do that. There's no problem with that, but still I'm not using it. It's completely fine, right? So else block is just an optional block, but yeah, the working mechanism wise, so once try will be able to execute itself successfully, then only it will come inside the else block. Otherwise there is no provision that it will be able to come inside a else block at any point of a time. So now so far so forth we have learned 3 blocks: try, except, and a else block. Now it's time to learn a 4th block. A 4th block called as a finally block. So now let's try to understand that what is a meaning of a finally block, and then back to back we will see some kind of a use cases of a try except kind of a block. So fine guys, now let's try to understand like okay, just do anything. Okay, there is another block called as finally block. Okay, now what is the meaning of finally block? So finally block is a kind of a block which will be able to execute itself. Doesn't matter what has happened with the try block, what has happened with the except block. Doesn't matter, basically. So it will be able to execute itself for sure. So this is what a finally block always try to achieve, or this is what a finally block always try to perform. So now here, I will try to show you an example that this is the finally block, right? And I'm trying to write like a print, print, and this is my finally block. It will in any condition. Okay, fine. Now, so like I told you, finally block will be able to execute itself even if try is going to fail, except is going to fail, everything is going to fail. But still finally will be able to execute itself. So if I have to write such kind of a code, which we are supposed to execute in any condition, if code is correct, that you have written inside the finally block. If you have written a wrong code inside the finally block, so a block wise I'm talking about. So the block will get executed, but inside that, if you have written a suspicious code, for sure it will fail even in that condition. Yeah. So fine, let's try to understand these things, guys. So here I'm trying to execute it. So fine, this code is not correct. So it is coming to this particular point, right? And now, so it is asking me for an input. So maybe I can try to give an integer input. Now it will come over here, right? It will not go to the except block. It will come over here, input through this operation. And here, this time, maybe I can try to make a mistake, right? So if I'm going to make a mistake, if I'm going to pass 0 or maybe some kind of a string over here, which is responsible for generating some kind of an exception for me. So in this case, for sure, it will not be able to go to the else block. I know that because try will fail. So it will not go to else block. It will go to where? Except block. And like I have discussed just now, doesn't matter what has happened. It will go inside the finally block. So now let's try to understand it. So whether it is able to get inside a finally block or not. I think I'll have to restart my kernel. Okay. Fine, integer, and then I'm trying to give like a 0 over here, right? So if this code is going to fail because I have just passed 0 over here, right? This code is going to fail for sure. And if this code is going to fail, so like we have discussed. So first of all, it will go to the except block. So fine, it is going to the except block. Sorry, I'm not able to execute this, whatever message that I've written. So yes, I'm able to print those messages. Now, so like I told you, it will not go to the else block because there is only one condition to get inside the else block. If try block is able to execute itself successfully, this time try block has failed. But like I told you, doesn't matter what kind of a situation you are in, but it will get inside the finally block. And yes, it is getting inside the finally block, even if try has failed. And yes, I'm able to print it. Now, again, if I'll try to execute, now let's suppose if I'm going to give an integer, a proper integer, this time I can say that in try block, so I have passed basically like a 7. Yes. So in this case, if try block is getting executed successfully, it will come inside a else block. And yes, whatever I have done, so yes, it is able to perform that operation. Plus, it will come inside the finally block as well. So finally will get executed whether try is going to fail or try is going to pass. Doesn't matter at all. And again, so if you have written some kind of a suspicious code itself inside a finally block, so again, finally block can fail. And in any of these blocks, like a try block, except block, else block, finally block, you can try to write any kind of a try except statement. You can try to write any number of any nested of label of like a try except statement as per the need. Depends upon you basically, I would say. So here, yes, it's completely fine. So it is able to perform these kind of a operation. So these are the 4 major block which is available inside a exception handling. And I'm assuming that all of you are clear with at least these 4 blocks. Then I will try to show you a different kind of an example, like what kind of a error I can handle, how I can try to create my own, like how I can create my own exceptions, and many more examples I have for you, right? So that I will be able to give you some kind of a demo, some kind of a glimpse. But yeah, so here I'm just trying to explain that, okay, so what is a try, what is except, what is like a except else or finally block, and when it will be able to execute itself and when it will not be able to execute itself. And I'm assuming that all of you are clear with this particular statement. So let's take some questions over here. So someone is asking that if there are multiple try block, then else block will give output considering which try block. So basically, like I told you in Python, indentation matters, right? So suppose if this is the try block and this is the except block, and along with that, if I have written my else block, so if I'm trying to maintain this indentation, so for sure within this indentation, we'll try to consider, right? So everything in Python like goes with the indentation. So if I have written in this indentation, so it will be associated with this particular try block. Simple. Same thing goes for the finally block as well. What is for different try block? What is the question for different try block? Can we give only one except block? No. For like For one try block, you have to give one except block. Yeah, multiple except is possible for one try, but one except you can't use into a multiple try. Can we have 0 except block and finally for a try section? No, you can have a 0 finally block, that is true, but except is a mandatory block. Without except, it will give you, it will be a syntactical mistake basically. So is else block compulsory? No, I told you very clearly that try and except is compulsory. Apart from that, else and finally is non-compulsory block. You can try to avoid it. It's an optional block basically. What is the use of finally block? Doesn't it work same like a next part of the code? So no, it's not like this next part of the code. Suppose if I have executed something, suppose if I'm trying to read some data from the databases, right? So I'm able to open up a connection, but let's suppose I'm not able to read a data because of some error in between a network, but still I wanted to close the database connection, right? So that other can use that connection. So maybe I can try to write a close connection into a finally block. So even though there is a problem with the file read operation, but still I'm closing the connection. So this kind of a code you can try to keep inside the finally block, and going forward you will be able to understand. What is the purpose of else block when try executes successfully? Suppose if I write some condition, right? So if try has executed successfully, so in that case, let's try to do some other operation. If try will not execute successfully, then you can write something inside the except block. So in that case, so you can try to write this kind of a situation. So fine guys, I have one question for you basically. So let's try to write these things, right? So I'm going to give you one problem statement. So just try to perform this operation into next 5 minutes of time. So let's suppose, let me think about your problem statement, what I can give you. Okay, so suppose I'm trying to read, I'm trying to perform some operations. So let's suppose A by B operation, right? I'm trying to perform, this is the operation which I have to perform, right? A by B operation. So okay, so A by B operation. Now, so it should keep on taking. So I have to perform this operation, and for sure. So let's suppose in a first 3 attempts. So let's suppose if B is nothing but it's a input that we are trying to take, right? And okay, and A is also an input that we are trying to take. So A and B is basically our input. Now let's suppose, so as A and B, so I can try to give input as a string. I can try to give an input as a integer, but it's a division operation. So in that case, for sure, unless and until this is integer and this is integer, it should not be able to execute it. So what you have to do is, so you have to write a code in such a way that unless and until I'm not able to give a correct integer and a correct integer as a and B, so it should not be able to terminate my code. It should keep on asking me for the integer. Now again, I'm trying to repeat the question. So I have to create 2 variables, so which will take input from your console. So A and B variable. So input from the console, it should be able to take, and you have to perform A by B operation basically. So you have to perform a by B operation, and it should keep on asking for if I'm trying to give a incorrect value of B. Let's suppose if I'm trying to give an incorrect value of B, so it should keep on asking for a value of B unless and until I'm not going to give a correct value of B. So this is the question that you have. Now let's try to handle these things into a try except else whatever block that you want. So you have a 5 minutes of time. Just try to complete it. Anyone who wants me to explain the same thing again? Anyone of you? So you have a chat box. You can try to ping me in your chat box, not in Q&A. Okay, so anyone, you can try to write me inside a chat box. I can see all of your chat box. Okay, fine, Gaurav. So I'm just trying to I'm trying to repeat a question again. So Those who are smart, they will be able to give me answer in 30 seconds. I know that. And yeah, those who have, I'll talk about that situation. Okay. So I think some of you are able to understand what I'm talking about. So see, here what will happen is, so you have to take two integer, right? A and B. Fine. Now you have to perform like a by B operation. So as a B, sometime what will happen is, as an input, I will give 0. Sometime as an input, so whenever I'll like, it will ask for the input, so I may give like a SUDH, some kind of a string, right? It should be able to handle that condition. And it should not terminate a code unless and until I am not going to pass. So it should not terminate a code unless and until I'm not going to pass a proper input. Means as a numerator, so as a numerator, as a value of A, unless and until I'm not able to pass like a correct input, and as a B, unless and until I'm not able to pass the correct input, it should not terminate my code. So you have to write a code so that it's in such a way that it will keep on asking me for A and it will keep on asking me for B for a infinite time, unless and until I'm not going to give a correct value. Once I will give a correct value, it should do A by B and then give me the result. So this is the kind of a situation that I have. Now write a code. You have next 5 minutes of time. So guys, I have just given you one condition. So if user is going to put, or if user is going to give a incorrect input, it should ask for the input again. Quick guys, you have 5 minutes of time. You don't have whole day. Write it. Okay, I know some of you are able to write a code. Okay, fine, guys. So I think most of you are able to like give me a code. I think it was same code that we have discussed last class, I think community classes. So fine, let's try to like understand this particular part, right? So what was my question, and then how we will be able to handle this particular situation. So basically, like I have asked you to write a code, so where it will be able to take a user input, so A and B, and then it will try to divide A by B. And if there is a problem, so if there is a problem with A and B, so in that case it should be able to like it should be able to ask for the user input again and again. So if there is no problem with the A and B, so in that case it should be able to print the output. So many of you have given me a code. Again, I'm just going to copy same set of a code, and then I'm going to show you. So Lakshya has given me this code, and I'm going to just execute it over here in front of every one of you. So fine, guys, let's try to execute it. So here, what I can do is, okay, this is my code. After that, I can execute. Okay. So see, it's a very simple statement, right? Which I have asked you to write. I'll write down. And most of you have already given me a code over here. So it's a very simple like situations which we are trying to encounter over here. So here I'm trying to write one loop called as while. So I think we didn't talk about a while condition, right? So while is again another kind of a loop, and basically like just like a for loop, but here the situation is a little bit different. So it will be able to get inside a loop if condition is satisfied. So again, here we are trying to write a true. So true will be a universal condition. I can write one as well. One will be a universal condition, or any other universal condition I can write over here, so that it will keep on getting inside the loop. So here I'm trying to write universal condition, means it will get inside a loop, because true will always be equal to true, because it always takes a condition of a true condition. In case of a true condition itself, it will be able to get inside this one. So true will always be true. Simple. Now, so we have written like a try block over here, and we are trying to take like a two input A and B as an input we are trying to write. And then, so we are trying to perform this A by B operation. Now it's completely fine. So we had a suspicious code, right? So I'm assuming that anyone can input any kind of things inside A as a part of A, or anyone can insert any kind of input as a part of B. So that was my expectation. It means that, so I had a suspicious code, and anyone can give maybe a wrong input or maybe a right input in A or in B. So what I can do over here is, so I can try to like write a except block. So try and catch, and then the try except block I can try to write. So in my try block, so we have written our suspicious set of a code. We have written a print statement. So if there is an issue with A and B, so it will try to terminate your code here itself. So it will try to terminate your code here itself, and then it will come inside except block, as we know. Now inside except block, so we are trying to print to a statement that invalid input, please input the numbers. And then we are trying to write down what? We are trying to write continuous statement. If you remember, so we talked about a break and continuous statement. So continuous statement will always try to continue from a loop itself, right? So continuous statement will try to continue from the loop itself. So continuous statement will try to give a control again to the loop, and again it will start executing a code from here. Again, if you are going to make a mistake, again it will get inside the except block, and again inside the except block you have written continue. So again it will try to give a control to the while block, and this procedure will never stop. So it will keep on asking for a input from the user. So suppose if user is going to give a correct input for A as well as for B, so it will try to print that input, means it will try to print this one. So whatever A by B that you are going to perform, and then it will break means what? So it will break out of the entire loop. So now it will not try to execute anything. So if it is able to execute these things successfully. So it's a very simple intuitive code, I would say, that where you can try to use like a try and except kind of a statement. So here, as you can see, if I'll try to execute it, right? So let's suppose if I'm trying to insert in a string, again, it's completely fine. So if I have inserted A is equal to string, so it was an invalid input, right? So it was not able to typecast these things into an integer, and so it is trying to print that, okay, it's an invalid input, please input a number, because my code has failed here itself, because I'm trying to perform a typecasting to the integer, and for sure as an input I have given a string, so it will not be able to convert, which is wrong. right? Which is wrong, I would say. So it was not able to convert. So it will come inside the except block, and then again, so whatever I have done inside the except block, it is trying to perform that operation. Then there is a continuous statement, and just because of that, it is getting inside the while condition. Again, like for a, let's suppose if I'm trying to insert a correct number, so it is asking me that enter the first number. So fine, I'm trying to provide 7 over here. Now it is asking me enter the second number. Let's suppose I will try to make some kind of a mistake over here, right? So again, same thing has happened. So if I'm trying to make a mistake even over here, so it will try to come inside the except block. It will try to print invalid input. Please input the number. So it's completely fine. Now again, it will try to throw a control to the loop itself, and while true is equal to true, so it will get inside try statement again, once again. Now if I'm trying to insert maybe like a first number correctly, second number at 0, same thing will happen. So this time my code is not going to fail here or here. This time my code is going to fail in this particular place, 7 by 0, right? 7 by 0. So it will try to fail over here, and then it will come inside the except block. It will try to give me like an invalid input, and please input the number. And again, it will try to throw a control to the while, and then again, it will try to execute a same thing once again. So now let's try to understand that if I'm trying to give like a correct number over here, 7 as a first number and 9 as a second number. Now this time what has happened? So this A was correct, B was correct, this statement was correct. So it is trying to print. It is trying to print that particular operation. So whatever A by B operation that we are trying to perform, and then it is trying to apply a break operation. So break operation simply means that, so come out of the entire loop. So whatever loop you are trying to implement it, just come out of it. As simple as that, right? So it is trying to come out of the loop, and then I'm able to perform, I'm able to close my operation. So this is a kind of a situation which I have asked you to write it down, basically. Okay, so fine guys, I think most of you have already written this kind of a code, and most of you will not face any kind of problem. I can see that in your chat box and even inside the Q&A. So I'm assuming that most of you are clear with a try except kind of a condition, or like how we can try to handle an exception inside a try, or like inside a Python, basically. So fine, not an issue. Let's try to add some more scenarios. So these are the only 4 block guys which is available: try, except, and which is a mandatory block, and else and finally is a optional block. So as we have already discussed that you can try to include else block, you can try to include a finally block. If you don't want to include, you can try to exclude that one. No one is going to stop you, and no one is going to ask you at the same point of time. Now, so here, this is something that we have already written, and I'm assuming that most of you are able to understand this particular situation, right? So most of you are clear with this exception handling things. Now let's try to add something. Let's try to add something with respect to this exception handling over here. So here, as you can see, so I'm trying to perform a file open operation, okay? And I'm trying to open up a file into a write mode. It's completely fine. I'm trying to open up a file into a write mode, and then I'm trying to perform some kind of a write operation in this particular case. Now, so if I'm trying to perform some kind of a write operation in this particular case, so this statement is fine. This statement seems to be fine for me. Now, so here I am trying to write except block. Now, if you will try to compare this except block, and if you will try to compare this except block, there is a difference that you will be able to find out. So here in this except block, so I have just started the body of the except block, but here I'm trying to mention IO error. So IO error is nothing but input output error, which I'm trying to mention in this particular case. So basically what happens over here is, so if I'll talk about exception, exception, right? So exception, I would say, is a base class for all the exceptions that you will be able to get. It's a base class, I would say. Now inside that, you will be able to get a different kind of a exception, like IO exceptions, like divided by 0 exception, like arithmetic exception, like a system exit exceptions, like assertion exceptions, like I would say, you will be able to get key error exceptions, index error exceptions, lookup error exceptions, IO error exceptions. You will be able to get system error exception. You will be able to get system exit exception. You will be able to get a runtime error kind of exception. You will be able to get. So there are many more exceptions which is possible or which is available inside this base class. But exception is a base class, or you can say a super class of all the exceptions that you will be able to find out, basically, right? So there are many more exceptions, derived exceptions, which is possible and which is available inside a Python, just like any other programming language. Now let's suppose I'm trying to write some code, right? But I'm not able to remember all sort of a kind of exceptions, right? I don't even know that, okay, so what an all kind of exception which exist in this world or in a Python programming. So I'm not supposed to worry about that. It's completely fine if I'm not able to remember any kind of exceptions. What I can do is, and let's suppose if I wanted to print a system message. Now, what is the meaning of system message? So let's try to understand it. So I will just give you a example, a small example over here. So let's suppose if I'm trying to execute this set of a code just without using a try except block, right? And let's suppose if I'm trying to open up this file into a read mode, and if I'm trying to execute these things. Now here, so it's trying to give me like a file not found kind of exceptions. Let's suppose if I'm trying to give like a correct file over here. So test maybe like a 21.txt. Now here, this time it is trying to give me syntax error. Okay, so here you will be able to find out that it is trying to give me a not writable, right? It is trying to give me a not writable kind of a error or not writable kind of a exceptions. This is the error which I am able to get from the system console itself, from the compiler itself. Now, so same kind of a message if I wanted to print, right? Same kind of a same kind of a output, so that I will be able to understand that what kind of error that I had, basically. Because whenever I will try to perform like a 5 by 0, so this statement is going to change. See, it's a division by 0, right? It's a not writable message that system is trying to give it to me. So this message always changes with respect to different operations. But as a beginner, right, as a coder, so I'm not able to remember specific exceptions. But still, if I wanted to print all the messages, all the system generated messages in my except block, I can do that. That is possible. Now how? Let's try to understand it. So see here, so you can try to write like all of your suspicious code inside a try block. There is no issue with that. So let me write down all the suspicious code in this particular place. Okay, so suspicious code is here, which is going to give me for sure some kind of an error. I don't remember any kind of a specific exception, but I wanted a same message over here. Now what I can do is I can try to call a superclass exception, and I can try to create alias. Alias name could be anything. I have just given E over here. It's a convention. Now, so I can try to print this particular E over here. I can try to print this particular E over here in this particular case. Okay. So as you can see, okay. Now, if I'm trying to execute these things, right? So now I'm trying to execute these things. I'm trying to print what? I'm trying to print this E, which is nothing but an alias of exceptions, which is a super class of all the exceptions as E, right? So I'm trying to print E. Here you will be able to find out that I'm able to get a similar kind of a message, right? So if I have to print a system generated message, if I don't want to give my own message, in that case, yes, that is possible. I can do it, basically, right? So far so forth, what we were trying to do, so we were trying to give our own message inside a except block. But if I wanted to print my own message or by system generated message, both I will be able to print, which can be helpful for me to debug my code. Again, there is a debugger option also you will be able to find out, which we will discuss for sure inside a Jupyter notebook or even inside the PyCharm. So let's suppose here, so I'm going to write that this block is having some kind of a issue. What's the problem? PRINT Okay, so see, as you can see in this particular place that I'm trying to print my own exception, as well as I'm trying to print, like I'm trying to print my own message, as well as I'm trying to print my system generated message. So both things are possible. Let's suppose if I'm trying to perform maybe like a 5 by 0 operation over here, right? 5 by 0 operation over here. So now division by 0 error that you will be able to get. So you will be able to print, you all will be able to print your system generated message as well. And that you will be able to get from a super class or from any of the derived exception as well. Depends. So depends how you are going to handle. So in our next class, what we will try to do is, so we will try to learn and we will try to understand that how we can try to write a custom like a exception. First of all, how we can try to create our own exception, because people who have created a Python programming, so yes, they have defined some kind of exceptions like division by zero exceptions, zero divisor exceptions, or like IO exceptions, runtime exceptions, maybe value error kind of exceptions they have mentioned, index error kind of exception they have mentioned, IO error kind of exceptions they have mentioned, environmental error kind of exceptions they have mentioned, right? So these are the exceptions which are the predefined exceptions. Again, there is a list of the exceptions. You will be able to get around 25 to 30 different kind of exceptions into a Python programming. Now, so you're not supposed to remember any of these exceptions. Even without that, you will be able to write a code and you will be able to handle a situation. But yes, it's good to know about like a 4 to 5 at least like a kind of exceptions, and it's always good to know that how we can try to utilize it and how we can create our own exceptions. For example, so 5 by 0 system is able to understand that, okay, so this is the exception, right? 5 by 0, so this is the exception, because in a numerator, so I'm trying to divide something by 0, it's an issue. But if I'm trying to call 5 by 5, this is not an issue for a system will be able to perform this kind of operation. But let's suppose I wanted to treat these things as an exception, right? It should give me exception. According to me, according to my logic, maybe this is not correct, right? Suppose if I'm trying to write some kind of a condition where I'm not supposed to perform this kind of operation, if this kind of operation happens, I'm supposed to treat that particular operation as an exception. So in that case, you will not be able to get any kind of a library or any kind of a things where you can try to implement it. You will have to write a custom exceptions in your case, right? Where it will be able to perform 5 by 5. It will try to treat 5 by 5 as a custom exception. You can try to give your own exception name as well. That is also possible. This is the flexibility that you will be able to get in almost every programming languages, basically. So we will try to understand that how to create a custom exception. Plus, we will try to understand that how we can try to utilize different kind of exceptions. Plus, we will try to understand the hierarchy of the exception as well. So like, plus we will try to understand that how we can try to write a multiple exceptions into a multiple except block, plus multiple exception into a single except block. So this is also a kind of a situation we are going to explore in our next class. So those things are not available inside your notebook. So I will try to mention it. I will try to write a code and then I will try to show you all of those kind of a example. So till then, so you can try to attempt your assignment. I think you will be able to solve it. So in exception handling, so I think we have given you one question from oops, and then one question from like exception handling as well. So just try to like handle it. And going forward, whatever code you are going to execute, whatever code you are going to write, make these things as a habit. So always try to maintain a try except kind of a block, even though if no one is asking you, you have to do it. As a coder, as a programmer, you have to do it. It's your responsibility to handle each and every kind of a exception at any point of a time. Without exception, going forward, you are not supposed to write even a single line of a code. Like I told you, make these things as a habit. It should not be an optional. People used to say that, okay, fine, so exception handling is an optional thing, but in production, no. No one is going to accept your code and no one is going to allow your code to check in inside a production system, I would say. So fine, guys, I'm assuming that all of you will try to practice each and everything and whatever we have discussed. So yes, you will be able to understand it basically, right? So now I would like to take some kind of a question from live question. So those who's having any kind of a concern or question, you can raise your hand. I will try to allow you to ask a question. Yeah, go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, sir. Can we do some operation under finally block?
Yeah, you can write any kind of
You said it's not good. I can't understand.
no, which one is not good? Did I said that you can't write any kind of a thing inside the finally block?
No, sir. It is. You said only it's not good.
Which
What's the reason, sir?
when I said that it's not good. I never said that actually. You can ask
In
other
your
people as well. I think
Q&A section, sir. Oh, okay, sir.
you are confused. Okay, so you
Yeah,
can
sir.
write any kind of operation. Suppose if I wanted to write a is equal to b plus c or any operation, right? Suppose 10 line of a code if I want to write, I can write it. I don't have any issue, right? But so
Yeah.
if there is a problem with this code, so again you will have to handle it. It means what? So you will have to
Try
write
and
down exactly.
accept.
So inside the try and accept block, you will have to keep your code. This is what
Try
I
and
said.
accept. Yes.
Yeah, so this is what I said. I never said that you can't write it. You can write it, but yeah, so either it should be a 100% correct code, which you can't guarantee, right? So it's always better to keep all those things inside the try and accept. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, next question, please.
Yeah. Hi, Sudhanshu.
Hello.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead one
Yeah.
by one.
Yeah, the question which you have given us to try out. So that try catch exceptions question. So can we include one else condition as well within that while true block?
Yes, yeah, why not? Why can't you include it? So
Like
like you can try to include what else over
But
here.
that will not get print.
So this
also
will
break.
this
Break and
will
come
be done, and then break.
up करेगा.
Okay. See.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Hello.
So I think you were trying to utilize a break statement over here, and then you were trying to write
Yeah.
else
Yeah.
block, right? So for
Yeah.
sure it will
Yeah.
break out of it. So how it will come
Yeah.
inside the else statement, right? So in
Exactly.
that case, you will have to change the location of break. I got your problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hello, Sudhanshu.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sir, I'm getting an error while creating my file. Usage error. Write file is a cell magic, but the cell code is empty.
Can you please ping me your code? I think it's a minor mistake that you're trying to make. I don't feel like it's a serious mistake. Okay. Next question, please.
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Is it my turn? Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I can hear you.
Yes. Thank you for taking my call. I was just wondering if I could have some more examples on this particular concept.
Okay. Try catch exception, right? Yeah, we have a hell lot of example we are going to discuss. Don't worry about that.
Okay.
And even like this is just a first class for exception. So even in next class, I will be talking about the exception. I will be talking about I will be talking about a custom exception as well. I will be talking about a different like a kind of exception like a IO error or syntax error or maybe a system error exception. So all those kind of a thing. So I think we'll be able to discuss enough amount of example and we will practice also. So I'll try to give you like lots and lots of question inside a class itself, which you guys can code.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I just want to ask is that I know that there are certain students who want to study apart from what you're teaching. So is there some that a website or some place that you would go and you possibly might recommend that
see generally what I say is like see whatever we are trying to talk about here, so yes, it's available everywhere. It's not like something new that we are trying to teach. So I just recommend people that try to practice, try to handle a situation. So this is a base part, right? So you will be able to, that's the reason. So I have asked that, okay, going forward, whenever you will write a code, so make these things as a habit that, okay, fine. So include try and accept. Now over there, so you will be able to get certain kind of a difficulties in a real time, right? And as you will progress, as you will get inside the Python project, right? Or as you will try to explore pandas, Python project, and everywhere, if you will try to include this kind of a things, you will find some kind of a different situation, some kind of a different scenario. So from there, you will try to learn. Suppose if I'm going to give you some kind of a website, even on those websites, so all these things are mentioned from the very beginning till last. So I think it will be a wastage of time. You're not on a beginner label now.
Yeah, that's true. What you teach us is what I feel that it's important, because if I go and learn on its own, I won't be able to learn it. Like that's why. So whatever you teach me, I use the same ideas in order to solve some more examples. So that's the whole idea about the
and just try to do a permutation combination by yourself. Try to generate some thoughts that whether this is possible or not. See, I can try to tell you a 10 other situation,
That's
right?
true, yeah,
but if you will start generating your thoughts, right? So that will fast track your learning skills, I would say. So you will be able to learn. So I can refer another 10 sites, right? Even there are lots of YouTube channels are available. There are many sites are available, but over there, people have already implemented their idea, their thoughts, and they have given a multiple situations, right?
You're telling me more of a trial and error. Try
Exactly.
on
Yeah.
yourself.
So try and error, and that's the best way to learn in a fast track way. And in this way, if you are able to learn, right, I can bet you will never be able to forget anything. That's a one advantage. Second advantage is you will be able to know each and every bits and pieces, each and every corners of the code, right? You will be able to handle it by yourself.
This was a good lecture. Thank you very much. I actually wanted to understand the concept so that I can implement it, but you were right on that part. Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. SJ.
In case of try, except, and else block, so else block will be executed if the try there is no error in the try block, correct?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
So can I write the whole code in the whatever there it is there in the else block? If I, instead of writing else block, if I append it in the try block itself, will it be the same?
Suppose there is a situation that if try block itself will execute successfully, then only you have to execute, right? If this is the kind of a situation, then how you can write all this code into a try block, because it will execute for sure anyhow, right? But what you want is, suppose if I have written one condition that A by B, if A and B value is correct, then try to perform a string concatenation, right? If this is the condition, if I have given you, so in that case, for sure you need some kind of a block, or else you can write maybe a if else kind of a condition, right? So it's not like this is the only way to do that. There is the other way as well. I'm not saying that always try to use else block. It's a programming, right? So it's just about the creativity. So you can try to generate your own creativity. But yeah, as far as the meaning of this try and else block is concerned, so yes, else block will be able to execute itself once try will be able to execute itself successfully. That's the only condition which you will be able to find out. Making sense?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So fine, guys, thank you so much, and try to practice. See, many people used to ask me that, okay, fine, so can you please tell me about the resources? And generally I avoid that purposely. I would say there are any number of resources which is available, and even you will be able to find out. It's not hidden resource which is only available to me, right? But what I always suggest to our people is that don't run after any resources, because in any resources, they are going to start from ABCD, right? That we have already started over here. So unnecessarily, you will go over there, you will face the same situation, and then you will try to practice their code, or maybe you will just try to copy and paste in 99.9% of the time. This is what we do. Even I used to do that when I was learning all those things, right? Even today, I used to do the same thing, right? So that is fine. Like if I have learned something, so after that, copy and paste is allowed. Everyone does that, so I can do that. So what I suggest to the people is, like, if you have to learn, right? See, whatever permutation combination I used to do in a class. So if you will go and watch my different classes, right, you will not be able to find out the same thing. So in some classes, I have done some other kind of permutation combination. In some other classes, I have done some other kind of permutation combination. And it always depends upon my thoughts, like how I'm able to think when I'm trying to give a classes, right? I just try to take some base things, and then on top of that, I keep on adding whatever comes in my mind, So I used to give you as an example, okay, fine. So let's try to do it. So this is something that you have to generate in yourself. If you are able to generate in yourself, I can assure you that it will not only fast track your learning, right? You will never be able to forget anything. Plus, you will be able to understand everything logically. You don't have to by heart even a single function. I talked about many functions, right? I never recommend anyone that, okay, fine, learn even a single function that I taught you. No, don't remember. It's completely fine. Just try to practice. Just try to think about the different situation. Maybe you can write your own function, or maybe try to utilize it. Maybe try to find out that, okay, whether there is a function which is available or not, or whether I can write down my own function or not, right? Or how I can fix this issue. So always try to not try to learn a programming. Try to solve a problem. Try to think about some situation and then code it. That's the best way, I would say, to learn programming, and start from the small things, right? That always works, I would say. This is how we all learn, according to me. It's my own perspective. This is how I used to learn something new, right? So I used to advise the same thing to my students as well. So fine, guys, I think we are done for today, right? So like try to practice. If you have any kind of a concern issue, you can join a doubt clearing session, and for sure you can raise a issue, right? But yeah, practice is important. Just try to practice by yourself, and see you again in your next class, Saturday and Sunday. Before that, yes, we have a doubt clearing session on Thursday, I think 10 p.m. IST. Okay, so with that, thank you so much, and have a great weekend ahead, whatever is left. So yeah, thank you.